Hello and welcome to the Radio Scilly video news. Sign up to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Radio Scilly. The chairman of British International Helicopters, Peter Scheuer, says their company is committed to the long-term operation of their route between the mainland and Scilly. Peter says they have to sell the heliports to Sainsbury's supermarkets in Penzance in order to release cash to buy new equipment needed for their oil company routes. To be viable, British International need to perform in that field, in their military contracts and also to and from the islands. The other two facets of the business depend on the Scilly operation as part of a jigsaw puzzle.
In other oil development around Europe and the rest of the world, they're insisting on new technology. However, we believe that once we've got the new equipment, our reputation and standing in the industry is such that we will be able to get into that market and therefore we will have long-term contracts. But to be even eligible to do that, we need the capital from the sale of the land at Penzance.
Many islanders question why they can't reduce prices and fill up the helicopters in the same way that Ryanair do with their business model. Peter says things are different because they don't offer such long routes and you can't make additional cash in food and extras on a 20-minute flight.
One of the costs which has gone up greatly has been the landing fees at the Isles of Scilly, and I understand that's outside the control of the Isles of Scilly Council because the airport has to be self-financing. But that's gone up quite a lot above the rate of inflation. The price of oil is outside our control, as is the rate of exchange. And the exchange rate was 185. It's now down to 150. That increases our costs.
The Bronze Age Solonian burial chamber at Porthelic Down is one of a number of sites in Scilly where you can now download audio guides to store on your iPod or MP3 player as you visit. The online guide is being coupled with new signage at the properties they manage, including the Garrison, Harry's Walls, Cromwell's Castle, King Charles Castle and the Old Blockhouse. Interpretation officer at English Heritage, Susan Holmes, claims the improved facilities will mean that visitors will be able to step back in time and immerse themselves in the rich history of Scilly. She says she hopes that many new and returning visitors will benefit from the improvements. The team from St Mary's Police Station have been trained in the deployment of tasers. They're used as a deterrent in violent situations and have been popularised in America.
X26, a taser made in the USA. These are live training cartridges, so they deploy the probes with the wire on but don't send the shock down the wire. So in all intents and purposes it's like a very realistic situation, but the person you shoot or stun with these won't get the shock.
They shoot prongs at anybody the police want to bring down, and that brings an electrical shock of 50,000 volts to the person, which incapacitates them. Specialist officers from the mainland came over to train our island's policing team in how to deploy the tasers.
Taser, taser, taser! You have been tasered. That's 50,000 volts. A shock. You will recover quickly. Do you understand? Put your arms out to the side.
They'll be kept in a secure area at St Mary's Police Station under lock and key in the same way that guns are kept.
The training cartridges, because the probes are slightly smaller. I wouldn't say it's a daily occurrence, because all it is an additional safety option for the public, for the officer, and for some extent even the offender, depending on the level of threat of violence that's being offered. So although they may be out on the street being carried, it usually has to be authorized by the force control themselves, but then the taser officers who are carrying the STOs do have that ability that if they are there at the location and the threat is appropriate, they can self-deploy.
There's been controversy at the news that Scilly's first CCTV cameras will be watching the public from this weekend. Anybody getting up to no good between the paper shop and Silver Street will be caught on tape with the two cameras from the Bishop. The monitoring has a range of 100 metres in daylight and a night vision facility too. The 2 public cameras are in addition to another 6 inside the licensed premises. Mark had to put them in. Magistrates insisted when the pub went for its new licensing conditions. The use of the cameras means they won't require door staff to keep an eye on who comes and goes. Inside there'll be monitoring of who goes in and out of the toilets, but Mark says there won't be cameras in the loos. That would be an invasion of privacy. There are other CCTV systems and businesses on the islands, including one on the Porthmelon Industrial Estate. And also at St Mary's Quay. Chief Constable of Devon and Cornwall, Stephen Otter, says he's surprised that the magistrates asked the Bishop and Wolf to install the cameras.
We don't have much crime out on the streets in the Isles of Scilly. So I wonder whether the CCTV is the right way of actually dealing with the extension of this licence and whether there could have been other things. It does seem a pity to me that we use CCTV almost as an automatic way of dealing with order, when actually I think we could find other ways of doing it.
60 of our island's pupils have been living and breathing the musical Oliver. The youngsters have gone to Penryn in Cornwall on the Solonian to put on a production of the show with their mainland counterparts. During the week they'll be sleeping in the school, and then the week after, youngsters from Penryn will come to the islands and stay at the Five Islands School while they put on a show at the Town Hall. Bryce will be as head teacher and has been accompanying the pupils. He says the kids here have undertaken some major roles on the mainland, and it'll be an adventure for both parties in lots of ways.
We've got just over 60 pupils going over. There's 7 staff going. We're going over on the Solonian on Monday afternoon, and we'll be at Penryn all week and coming back on Friday morning.
Massive operation then.
A very big operation, yeah, very exciting times. And it will carry on to the week after because we've got over 50 Penryn children coming back here for a few days as well. And
Bryce is looking forward to Islanders having a chance to see how the term's rehearsals have paid off. Bryce says that the production's tied in with coursework, and the pupils at the Five Islands School have looked at the history behind Oliver.
We chose Oliver really because we've spent a lot of this half-term, the term before, doing work on the Victorians. They wanted something that would tie to the theme that we were doing, so it wasn't just an arbitrary choice. It was something that a lot of schools work on Victorians, and this sort of ended up being quite a suitable one to do.
They've actually tied in the social history of the era with the musical.
We have indeed, yes. So they've actually done research into how legit is the story of Oliver. Does it actually reflect what was going on in society at the time?
Well, I can't help but ask you the question, how legit is the story of Oliver?
It seems pretty accurate actually. The workhouse situation was very real. There was a lot of lost and unknown and random children everywhere. So it does reflect a lot of the sort of things that the pupils have been finding out about.
But there's nothing to stop us from getting a thrill when we all close our eyes and imagine food glorious food.
At the moment, our island's electricity comes from the mainland with an undersea cable. If there's a problem, as you know, the power station will kick in. But the underwater line could always be at risk of being snagged by a passing ship. With that in mind, our islands could form the basis for an experiment to revolutionise the way in which the UK uses electricity. It's very early days, but Radio Scilly understands that officials from Western Power are in discussions with the potential of rolling out a trial for what's known as a smart grid on the islands. Many islanders rely on PV cells and solar energy at the moment. Smart grid technology is very much the buzz phrase in electricity at the moment. Instead of a one-way flow from a supplier such as the power station through wires to our home as a consumer, smart grid allows a two-way flow in some cases, which could mean that individuals could generate their own power on roofs using cells or wind turbines. Technology can also be used to switch on or off electrical items, and meters can help the efficient movement of power supply around. It can even explain where your electricity is being sourced from, whether wind, wave, solar or traditional coal or oil-fired stations. Recent trials have been a success in Boulder, Colorado, and in the UK on the Isle of Wight, and in Lincolnshire at Skegness. Mike G from Western Power regularly visits our islands and is set to meet the council to discuss these plans soon. Sharon Cross from Western Power's Bristol base says there's nothing concrete arranged at the moment. It's all still at the technical planning stage. A number of islanders have already embraced green living. Mincarlo Guesthouse has got a Gold Tourism Award for its green accreditation. And for the last 2 years, islanders have got behind the E-Day initiative, designed to reduce the amount of power consumed. A number of islanders have taken free meters to gauge how much power their properties are consuming.